Hello and welcome back. I am joined here today by Dan Hardy of the MMA world. He's going to show me a few little tricks of the trade, what to expect from Tyron Woodley this weekend against Jake Paul live on BT Sport Box Office. Obviously, Dan, we had the SPORF masterclass where you showed us a little bit of the MMA side of things. You're going to have to say Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul are beginners. You're now going to see a real beginner when it comes to boxing, and just show us a little bit of what we could potentially expect to see from Tyron Woodley this weekend. Obviously, he's from a wrestling background, from that MMA background. First thing I want to know is the stance of Tyron Woodley. How is it going to differ against let's call him what he is now, a boxer in Jake Paul this Saturday?
Okay, well, obviously with Jake Paul, you'll see a more traditional boxing stance where it's kind of longer and on the side. What you'll see with Tyron Woodley is a shorter stance where he turns his back heel towards his opponent. The reason why he does this is partly because he's a wrestler. He's got a very fast sprint forward. And if you watch his fight against Robbie Lawler, you'll see him go short right hand, short left hand, power right. And that's his three-punch combination. But the first two aren't meant to land. They're just meant to scare the hell out of his opponent and get them moving back. So as soon as you see me throw this, you start moving back, and I'm going to fill that space, bang, and catch you with the power shot. And it's the third one that comes over the top, that sprint, bam, bam, bang, there. And then obviously, now they're in the clinch. And this is where Tyron Woodley's strongest. And he's the shorter guy as well. So he's going to be overhooking. He's going to be getting this head in position here. And he's going to keep hammering to the body, into the head, until the referee comes in and separates. And that's a typical wrestling position there. As soon as they tie up, he's going to overhook and he's going to head in position there. Now you can't turn and face me. And I know where your head is to hit you and beat you up.
So when, obviously it's not going to be complete, it's not going to be an MMA fight, but those clinches and how important is it going to be for Tyron Woodley to make the most of those opportunities, particularly early in the fight when they're both fresh, the ability to kind of, let's call it what it is, rough Jake Paul up and show him stuff that he's not yet faced?
The benefit for Tyron to do that is that it will discourage Jake Paul from tying up. The last thing that Tyron wants to do is spend half the fight in the clinch because it is exhausting for him. Jake Paul's a big dude, he's taller, he's going to hang on him and wear him out. So if Tyron can scare him in that clinch, a couple of uppercuts, a couple of digs to the body before the referee steps in and breaks them, the next time it comes to clinch, Jake Paul's going to be like, no, I'll stay away from him. I'll use my jab and keep him back.
With regards to Tyron Woodley, obviously we've mentioned the fact that he's from a wrestling background, but he does carry knockout power. We're yet to see Jake Paul get hit as a professional or indeed as an amateur. His fight that he had was against Deji as an amateur. We've not really seen him take one flush on the chin yet. Does Tyron Woodley have the power to hurt Jake Paul?
No doubt he has the power. And the big difference that Jake Paul's going to experience is the speed and the intention. You know, the other people that Jake Paul's fought up to this point, they've not tried to put it on him like Tyron Woodley will. And they've also not had the tools and the athleticism that Tyron Woodley's got. That's a big difference. Like, Tyron Woodley's coming in there with his ego on the line. He's planning on a knockout, and he's definitely got the knockout power to do it. But it's about finding the ways around the guard, bam, being the faster opponent and catching Jake Paul before he gets stung with that jab.
And from Jake Paul's perspective, what does he need to be wary of early in the fight, and what does he need to do? You mentioned about the size difference and that impose that physicality on Tyron Woodley. How important is that for him to do?
It's essential. You know, Jake Paul is the bigger fighter. He's got a height and reach advantage, quite considerable. I mean, Tyron's got broad shoulders, but Jake's going to look like the bigger guy in there. If he rushes himself and starts running into clinches with Tyron, that's when it's going to start to backfire. I think he needs to make Tyron a bit nervous. Look more patient and more experienced than he actually is. So stay at a distance, touch him with the jab, keep working that right hand to the body, so that'll bring the arms down of Tyron, and then he'll open up that right hand to the head. That's the one he caught Askren with, but it's not going to be as easy to hit Tyron Woodley with this one. He's going to have to set it up. But if you go back to his pro debut, you know, when he was against Gibb, he was moving back, he was hitting him with uppercuts, and he looked like a good amateur boxer. I think he's got to do that against Tyron Woodley. Keep him at a distance with the jab, work the body, and then open the head up for that right hand to the top.
Now, the final thing that I want to talk about is Tyron Woodley's chin. Now, much has been made about that in recent weeks, mainly from Jake Paul's side. Is he chinny? Is he susceptible? Could we potentially see Jake Paul get another early stoppage?
Everybody is chinny in 4-ounce MMA gloves. That's the big difference. And Tyron's not been knocked out for a long time. I mean, the last time he was stopped was with elbows back in the Strikeforce days. I mean, we're talking years ago. Most recently, he's been dropped a couple of times, but he's not been TKO'd. And that's a big difference. Like, you're not seeing anybody knock Tyron Woodley out and he's not getting up. He's still working, he's still scrambling, he's still trying to fight. And then these are bigger gloves. You know, you've got to hit somebody even harder with the bigger gloves. I feel like Tyron's got the punching power to make a difference in this one. It's his gas tank I'm concerned about. That's where Jake Paul's got to be the more experienced and kind of not invest too much in his power shots himself, because then they're both going to get tired, and that's where experience comes into play on Tyron's side.
You mentioned that experience is a great word to use there. Tyron Woodley's been through the fire. He's been in some massive fights in the MMA world. How important is that experience on the big stage against somebody like Jake Paul, who, while a massive digital star, is still very inexperienced when it comes to actual combat?
Yeah, it does make a big difference. You know, if you think, you know, there's that moment, and it's a very lonely moment. You're standing behind the curtain as you're ready to walk out. You can hear your music, the announcer, or whatever. There's been 3 times that Jake Paul stood behind that curtain. And like I said, all the money, all the fame, all the followers, none of them are there in that moment when he's in his own head, accepting that he's going to walk out to a fist fight. Tyron Woodley's been there so many times. And the difference here is he's walking out to a boxing ring against a YouTuber, not walking out to a cage with someone like Robbie Lawler. You know, the anxiety is going to be different for Tyron, but that's going to be, you know, a benefit to him in this fight. He needs to stay calm because anxiety plays into, you know, a short gas tank.
There we have it. We look forward to seeing it this Saturday on Sky Sports Box Office. Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley. From Rob Tebbett and Dan Hardy.